the aquarium. My name is Sarah, and I'm one of the very lucky keepers here at Dugong Island. Alrighty, so before I tell you a few things about our animals, I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge that connection they've had with the land, communities, and the animals for over 60,000 years. Alrighty, so this tank here is one of our warmer tanks. We like to keep it to around 23 to 24 degrees Celsius. So the animals you'll find here are the ones who really enjoy those subtropical environments. So we've got plenty of different fish species in here. You would have noticed our eagle rays, and we've also got some 2 shovel-nosed rays in here as well. But of course, we are on Dugong Island, so our star of the show is of course Pig the Dugong. So Pig is a rescue animal. He was found washed up on a beach at just a couple days old up in North Queensland. Now we know how old he was at the time because his umbilical cord was actually still attached to him when he was found. Now in the wild, dugongs will spend the first 7 or so years with their mom just to learn all those different skills that they would need to survive in the wild. So this can be things like how to find a good source of food, or how to interact with other dugongs, or just generally how to be a dugong. But sadly, with Pig, his mom was just nowhere to be seen. They tried looking for a female who was calling out for a baby, or a female who had looked like she had just given birth, but they just could not find her anywhere. They tried for a few days, but she just never showed up. So they decided to take a Pig in. So this rescue facility that took him in is actually SeaWorld. And they had tried to rescue some baby dugongs in the past, but unfortunately at the time there wasn't much known about how to raise a baby dugong, especially one that was as young as Pig was at the time. They just hadn't been able to get the formula right. But in this attempt, what they tried to do is to make a formula that was based off of coconut milk. And this is because dugongs are lactose intolerant. So they mixed this in with lots of supplements and different nutrients that he would need. And it was successful. He ended up growing big and strong. They decided to refer to him as the Pig. They didn't want to give him a human name, knowing their chances. But as you can probably tell, the name has stuck, and we still know him as Pig today. Now, like I said, he spent about 4 years at this rescue facility. Then they decided to try to release him back into the wild, because that was their end goal all along. Now, before they did this, they did trial him in an enclosed salt lake, just to see how he would do there first, before fully releasing him into the ocean. Here he did really well. He was eating well. He had gained some weight. So they decided to finally release him back into the wild. When they did this, they attached a tracking device to his tail. But about a few weeks after they released him back into the sea, they did find the tracking device washed up on the beach. It had lots of shark bites in it, and Pig himself was nowhere to be seen. So they had assumed that Pig sadly hadn't made it. But around 8 months later, they were receiving calls from the public about a dugong who was going up to shore, trying to say hello to everyone, a dugong who was so curious. And when they went to check up on this dugong, they realized it was Pig. They realized that being hand-raised, Pig didn't realize that he shouldn't be going up to people. He was very social. Now, after being found in this state, he did have lots of scratches and scars all over his body. He had actually lost 25 to 30% of his body weight, so really not in a good state. They decided to take him back in, and he has since been deemed as unreleasable. So Pig came down here with us at Sea Life Sydney in 2008, and he's been with us ever since. He's now 24 years old, and he'll be turning 25 in November. Dugongs typically live to their 70s, so I like to say that Pig is in his rebellious teenage years. He's very cheeky, very mischievous. But in the wild dugongs will eat exclusively seagrass. And while we would absolutely love to provide this for pig, unfortunately it is a critically endangered species of plant. So it's illegal for us to harvest it from the wild, because that can leave our wild dugongs with nothing left to eat. It's very, very difficult to grow as well. It's very slow growing. It takes months and months and months. So instead, when the pig was younger, we gave him lots of different choices of leafy greens to eat. And he chose cos lettuce as his absolute favorite. We tried so many other things. We tried kale, but he spat it back out. We tried bok choy, but he spat that back out. We even tried different kinds of lettuce, but it wasn't good enough. It was basically cos lettuce on nothing. Wow. Of course, he chose one of the more expensive options. A lot of people ask us what we did during the lettuce shortage last year. And the answer is, we just kept buying his lettuce. It was costing us $18,000 a month just for pig's lettuce at the time. It's a very expensive dugong. He does eat a lot of it, being a 300 kilogram animal. He needs about 40 kilograms every single day. Now, what do we do to prepare his lettuce? We separate the leaves and we thread them into some metal trays. And these are weighted, so they will sink all the way down to the bottom of the tank and kind of act like how seagrass would be in a wild. Because we want him to eat as naturally as he possibly can. But we throw one of these trays in every 10 to 15 minutes from 6:30 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's a full-time job for us. There's like 3 people every day just working on pig's lettuce. I end up smelling like it at the end of the day. But yeah, so with pig, a lot of people ask us if he ever gets lonely. He is our only dugong of the year. In fact, he's only one of 2 dugongs in human care in the entire world. So we're very, very, very lucky to have him. Of course, he is a male, but the other dugong is up in Japan, and she is a female who's just a little bit older than pig. Now, in the wild, dugongs don't really spend that much time around each other. You might see some females around the same patch of seagrass if there's a really good source, but that's mostly for the food, not really to interact with each other. Male dugongs in particular are quite territorial, so you really won't see them around each other much. You might notice that pig actually still has some of his scars on him, especially at his tail. He has a couple holes in it, it's very bumpy. Usually it would be fully smooth. And we suspect that these scars may have come from him straying into the territory of another male and getting into a bit of a scuffle. But being hand-raised, pig is very social, like I mentioned. He really, really loves people. He actually gets mad at us if we don't give him enough attention throughout the day. But while you were down there in those tunnels having a look at pig, he was probably looking right back at you. He loves people watching down there. Sometimes we're trying to do a training session with him and he'll get distracted by the people. But during COVID lockdown, when we couldn't have anyone here to visit us, we actually noticed a change in pig's behavior. He seemed very low energy and he was eating a lot less as well. And the only thing that we could pick out that had changed was that we didn't have any guests in here. But luckily, we had a solution. We have a Madame Tussauds right next door. So, if you can guess what we did, we borrowed some wax figures from them and laid them out in this tunnel, on the deck, everywhere where pig could see. And he absolutely loved it. His energy went back up, he was eating more, and he was much, much, much happier. Apparently his favorite one was Albert Einstein. We like to say it was because of the frizzy hair. But it's probably because he looked a little bit like one of Pig's previous keepers. Alright, so with Pig, as I mentioned, we do some training sessions with him. And these aren't training sessions to teach him how to swim through a hoop or jump through the air. These are training sessions that help us help him. So, for example, he's got this toy here. Whoop. We call it a tadpole. Don't ask me why.